welcome to the deep dive. You've sent us a really fascinating stack of sources this time.
Yeah, this one's different.
Definitely. Today, we're peeling back the layers on something really fundamental. Language itself. You probably think you know how language works, right?
Most of us do.
But what if there's a whole different, pretty radical perspective we've maybe never even considered?
Exactly.
We're going to dive into these excerpts from the Archaeology of Language, a new human science. It's written by the assistant to Dr. Mahmudzon Kучкаров.
Right, and he's an expert in linguistics, AI, history of human cognition, a wide range.
Yeah.
And look, this isn't just some dry academic paper. It's a bold assertion. It really challenges the whole foundation of what we've called linguistics for, centuries.
So our mission today is to unpack this.
Yeah, let's unpack Dr. Kучkarov's Odom Tili, that's human language theory. We'll explore its pretty groundbreaking claims and see what it might mean for how you, listening, understand communication, and maybe even yourselves. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, get ready, because this deep dive, I think it's going to challenge some assumptions. It could be a shortcut to understanding a really paradigm-shifting idea.
Definitely paradigm shifting.
So the source kicks off with a, really provocative question. Was linguistics ever actually a science? What's the core critique here against mainstream linguistics before Kучкаров?
Well, according to Dr. Kучкаров, the big problem was that traditional linguistics, it just lacked a clear empirical method, something grounded in biology.
Okay.
The text argues it was basically just a collection of texts, metaphors, and speculative frameworks, no solid grounding in anatomy, physiology, or even natural logic.
So, not really scientific in his view.
Not truly scientific, no. That's his argument.
And because of that, Dr. Kучкаров wants to dismantle what he calls that pseudo-scientific foundation. He even calls himself an archaeologist of linguistics. Why that term? An archaeologist.
Right, it's specific. He uses archaeologist because he says he literally digs deeper. So while mainstream linguistics might start with, say, words and scripts we already have.
Yeah, the things we see.
Exactly. Kучкаров goes way back to pre-verbal levels, he says, to the origins of sound in the body. Muscle movements, natural gestures, touch, primal sounds shaped by our bodies and the environment.
He's looking for the absolute beginning.
The physical beginning.
And the breakthrough. What's the core idea that comes out of all this digging?
It's actually surprisingly simple on the surface, but revolutionary, his claim. Language is not born in the mind.
Okay. Where then?
It is born in the body and only later becomes thought.
Wow. Okay, that flips everything upside down, doesn't it?
Completely. The body comes first.
But wait, how does that work with, thinking? Internal monologue, abstract ideas. If it starts in the body, how does it become thought?
Right, that's the crucial second part. Only later becomes thought.
Yeah.
The source argues that our thinking processes, especially the abstract stuff, they're actually built on top of these bodily foundations. The body provides the sort of raw data, the initial input.
Like the building blocks.
Exactly. And then the mind processes that, constructs meaning from that physical base.
Okay. So this idea leads us to his main work, Odom Tili, human language theory. What is this then? Is it just a theory or something more?
Well, the source presents Odom Tili as more than just a hypothesis. It's framed as a whole new scientific discipline.
The new science.
Yeah. It's described as, 1, an empirical theory of how sounds and signs actually emerge. 2, a model of language grounded, like we said, in the body, movement, form, repeatability.
Right.
And 3, it comes with its own methodology. They call it phonosignosemantics.
Phonosignosemantics. Catchy.
Yeah. Basically, it's meant to be an empirical way to chart the path from a sound to a sign to meaning. How does that transformation happen naturally?
Got it. And are there guiding principles for this new discipline, like rules?
Yeah, there are some key principles laid out. First, every single sound, every sign must have a natural origin, no exception.
Okay, natural origin.
Second, only patterns that are natural, systemic, meaning part of a system and repeatable, can count as actual linguistic units.
Makes sense. Repeatable.
And third, and this is a big one, meaning isn't arbitrary. It's not just random convention.
Like Saussure said.
Exactly what it's challenging. Kучкаров says meaning is embedded in form and function, not assigned by convention. The meaning is in the thing itself.
Okay, this is where it gets really concrete and honestly really interesting for me. Can we get into some specific examples? How does meaning actually get born from the body, according to this?
Absolutely. And the source gives some pretty compelling examples. It starts with one you might not expect, the snake. and the sound S.
The snake.
Yeah, and it stresses this isn't just a metaphor. The snake is presented as a biological and linguistic archetype.
An architect, right.
So the theory goes, S sound. It emerges naturally from a snake's hiss. That's a direct physiological source for the Ness film.
You can hear it.
Right.
Yeah.
And similarly, the shish sound comes from a rattlesnake's tail, a sound made by a biological tail organ.
Okay. Physical sounds from the animal.
Physical sounds. And what's interesting is both sounds are systematic, they're repeatable, you find them across languages, and intuitively they're associated with things like motion, danger, touch, stealth, presence.
Things you associate with snakes.
Exactly. The association is built in, not learned later.
So, okay, the sound has a physical origin. How does that connect to, like, the words themselves, the meaning, the structure?
Great question. The source connects it directly to morphology, that's word forms, and semantics, meaning. It argues even the shape of the letter S in Latin mirrors the snake's curved body.
Oh, visually.
Visually. And then it gives this whole list of words across different languages that it claims are linked by this bodily logic of the snake.
Okay, like what?
Like sleep in English and Russian, related to lying flat like a snake.
Mm-hmm.
Sit in English, in Russian, that curled, grounded, snake-like posture.
I can almost picture that.
Right. Smooth in English. Ashuas in Uzbek snakeskin. Squeeze. Constriction. Surface. Gliding. Spread. Spreading venom or movement. Strike the rapid motion. The point here isn't just the sound. It's that these words are supposedly united by this bodily logic, visual, tactile, evolutionary. The meaning, he argues, isn't just learned, it's felt and mirrored from the archetype.
Yeah, that's a very different way of thinking about where words come from. Does this archaeology work for more abstract stuff too? Like the source mentions the language of money. That feels pretty far from saying.
It does, doesn't it? But the claim is yes, this language archaeology approach reveals origins through physical action even there. Take money.
Okay.
In German, it's Geld.
What?
Yiddish, Geld.
Right.
The source proposes the root components are actually G from Gala, which it links to the shape of the human skull or head, interestingly.
The head? Okay.
And Elt from a Turkic root meaning to carry or to transport.
Carry?
Exactly. It argues this reflects a physical instinct to grab money in one's fist and carry it. The physical act became the word.
So you're saying the source suggests this grabbing and carrying action is like a universal human thing, and that pops up in language everywhere.
That's precisely the idea. Not just coincidence, but these fundamental shared human actions forming the bedrock of language. And it adds another layer. In Uzbek, hu means to carry. Its root, uzi, apparently also means pocket in Yiddish.
Pocket, carry.
Okay. So the source suggests maybe that universal gesture of putting money in pockets, carrying it that way, evolved into the language itself.
That's a really direct link from word to anatomy, or action at least. The source gives an even more direct example, doesn't it, with the Uzbek word?
Yes. So scrotum is presented as one of the absolute clearest examples. Almost undeniable, the source implies.
How so?
It breaks it down. Tash,
Yep.
the root, interpreted as pouch or compartment.
Okay, like a pocket.
Right. And OQ is a suffix in Turkic languages, meaning constant or always present.
Always present pouch.
Exactly. So the full word literally describes a natural built-in pouch that always contains two rounded forms. And it even links those forms to resembling coins, symbolizing internal storage.
Wow.
The text calls that linguistic empiricism in its purest form. Direct link from anatomy to word.
Okay, this really starts to challenge a lot, doesn't it? Even the origins of scientific words we use every day, we assume they're Latin or Greek.
It absolutely does. The source mentions Dr. Kучkarov's alto articles, which apparently provide a scientific breakdown of what it calls misattributed roots.
Misattributed? Like what?
For example, it claims natura, nature, is derived from a Turkic root tur, meaning to stand or a structure.
Natura from tor.
And material from teri, meaning skin or membrane. Vertical from tik, meaning upright or standing straight.
Skin for material, and for vertical. That's unexpected.
Yeah.
So if these core scientific terms really are Turkic, what's the implication there? Historically, culturally, what does that mean for how we've written history?
Well, the source makes a very strong claim about that. It asserts these so-called Latin or Greek terms are in fact Turkic in origin.
Right.
And it suggests that modern scientific vocabulary has colonized and repackaged ancient nomadic knowledge.
Colonized knowledge. That's a heavy charge.
It is. It implies a whole historical narrative we accept might be overlooking or maybe even deliberately obscuring these alleged origins. Definitely makes you think about where terms come from, doesn't it?
It really does. So, okay, if this theory is presented as being so profound, so revolutionary, why isn't it widely known or accepted? The source hints it's being suppressed.
It does indeed. The text describes the Odom Tilley theory as being actively suppressed precisely because it challenges everything.
Everything. What does it list?
Why? It lists some major disruptions. First, it claims the theory debunks religious myths. It reinterprets figures like Adam, Eve, the snake, the tree, not as stories about sin, but as narratives about the origin of language itself.
Wow, okay. Language origins, not sin.
Right. Second, it claims to destroy fake linguistic paradigms, specifically calls out Saussure's arbitrariness of the sign as false.
We mentioned that.
Yeah. And Chomsky's LAD, the language acquisition device idea, and structuralism generally, calls them non-empirical. Also critiques diachronic linguistics, studying language change over time, as being disconnected from the body.
So it's not just a new theory, it's actively trying to tear down the old ones.
That's how it's framed, yes. Very confrontational.
What else?
It also claims Odom Tilley proves monogenesis.
Monogenesis. Single origin.
Exactly. The idea that all human languages ultimately come from the same single embodied source. And getting back to the history point, it asserts the theory exposes historical fraud, specifically names the myth of ancient Greece and the theft of Andalusian knowledge.
Whoa. Okay, those are huge historical claims tied to a linguistic theory.
Huge, and maybe most critically, the text claims the theory liberates human cognition. By understanding the bodily roots, it argues, people become much harder to manipulate through language, makes propaganda, manipulation, and social control much harder.
Liberates cognition. That is a powerful claim. The source really doubles down on that, doesn't it?
It does. It concludes that section with a very strong statement. Quote, "You cannot control people who understand the roots of language. You cannot lead them into war. You cannot keep them obedient through narrative."
That's quite a statement about the power of understanding language's origins.
It is, and it goes further, claiming this work by Dr. Kучкаров is being actively censored now.
Actively? How?
It states his work faces digital suppression, particularly in Uzbekistan. Things like posts and videos being blocked, maybe systems like Pegasus being used to filter or limit access.
Pegasus spyware. Wow.
Yeah, and his scientific outreach efforts facing what it calls silent censorship. The source doesn't pull punches here. It calls this not just political repression. This is a crime against the evolution of human thought.
A crime against thought itself. That's incredibly strong language.
Very.
Wow, what a deep dive. This has taken us from, abstract ideas about language right down to the muscles, the sounds, the biology of the human body.
Yeah, Odom Tilley is definitely presented as way more than just another theory.
Seems like it.
It's framed as a new science. Linguistic archaeology, they call it. The first empirically grounded science of language. Even a universal decoder for understanding all human speech.
A universal decoder.
And the source even calls it the last scientific warning of the AI age.
The last warning. Heavy stuff.
Definitely gives you pause.
So maybe the next time you speak, or even think in words, you might consider not just the words themselves, but these deeper, ancient echoes the theory talks about. Echoes of your body, your shared human experience.
Right. What resonates with you from this journey? What stands out?
Yeah. How might understanding these kinds of foundational roots, if this theory holds water, change how you see the world, how you see yourself, especially now, in an age just saturated with information, narratives, spin?
Definitely something to mull over.
For sure. Something to think about until our next deep dive.